Okay, here we go. 2.5 day 1 notes. Remember, this is going to be for a grade, so take good notes. Not too many. I think we're only going to do 4. All right, so rational equations, we are going to have to solve these. Remember, a rational equation usually has the x in the denominator. Also, remember, I have my red pen out here on purpose because you have restrictions when it comes to fractions. So remember, you cannot have 0 in the denominator. So we're going to have to make sure we watch our answers. Sometimes we're going to get stuff that will make the denominator equal 0, and those bad kind of answers, those are called extraneous. And we'll talk about those when they pop up in our examples. Okay, so the good news about rational equations, we don't really ever solve fractions. What we're going to do is we are always going to multiply by the least common denominator to just get rid of the fraction altogether. But when the fraction goes away, don't forget about those restrictions. And we're going to go ahead and state the restrictions in the beginning. So before I start solving, here I got my little x right here. So I know I can't have 0 in the denominator. So I know x cannot equal a -3. And I'm just going to put a little bubble around this because that's important, because if I end up with that answer, then I have to say it's extraneous. Let's go ahead and solve. In order to solve this, let's move this 4 to the other side because it's a lot easier when you have one term on one side. Here we are with our one fraction, and then we're going to have one constant on the other side. We're just going to multiply both sides by the LCD. So I'll just put this whole thing in a big, large group symbol. This side gets multiplied by the LCD. This side gets multiplied by the LCD. All right, so we're going to distribute. And remember, you distribute to how many terms are on each side of the equal sign. This is one fraction. This is one term. So these are going to cancel out right here. So this x plus 3, this is going to get distributed to the 4. Let's go ahead and write the next line of our work without this fraction. So it's going to be 20 equals, and remember 4 is going to get distributed to that x plus 3. Let's go ahead and distribute the 4 twice. So 20 is going to equal 4x plus 12, and then here you have just like a junior high level equation. So we are just going to solve for x. I'm going to move that 12 to the other side, divide both sides by 4, and then let's see what we get. So when I move the 12 over, 20 minus 12 is going to be 8. And then 4x divide both sides by 4. We know x is going to equal 2. That's great. That's a good answer. So we're going to box that in because it wasn't a restriction. And that's how we're going to do these rational equations. Here's example 2. So unfortunately for example 2, I couldn't just have one term here and one term on the other side because there's 3 terms total. So obviously 2 of them are going to be on one side. I am just going to leave it how it is. I'm not going to move anything across the equal sign, but what I need to do first is always check for restrictions. So these two right here, I got a couple of restrictions based on this side. I know x cannot equal a positive 2. I know x cannot equal a positive 4. And I don't know about this yet. The only way we can figure this out, guys, is if we factor. So let's factor this denominator. Split these x's up. All right, so a positive 8 and a negative 6, that is going to be a negative 4 and a negative 2. So this example works out nicely because it factors into what these are over here. So I do not need to add anything to my restrictions, so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of make it stand out to me for me to check it later. And then here we go. We're going to multiply both sides by the least common denominator. So it's going to be one of these, and it's going to be one of these. This is the least common denominator for the whole entire equation because they share the same factors. Okay, so again, I'm going to go ahead and put it in a group. And remember, we are multiplying this by the least common denominator. I've ran out of room here, so I'm just going to recopy this for the next line of my work. That's a good idea anyway. That way I won't be trying to smash anything together and I won't lose any part of my work and get the wrong answer. So it's a good thing that I'm just writing this right here. All right, here we go. Now I'm going to draw my group symbol. And I'm going to multiply everything by these two factors because it's going to wipe out the whole entire fractions for every term. So remember, x minus 4, x minus 2, both sides, it's an equation, so we have to keep it equal. What you do on one side, you do to the other. Okay, so remember, we have one term right here, so both of these are going to cancel out both of these. So the left side of my paper is just going to be 4. So that's nice. That is not going to be the case over here. When I distribute this LCD to this term, the only thing that's going to cancel out are the x minus 2's. So this 3x up here, it's going to get multiplied by x minus 4. And I'm not going to do all of that at the same time, but I am going to write how I'm going to distribute it later because I want to focus on this sign. This is a plus sign. That's like a plus 2. So let's talk about what this positive 2 is going to get multiplied by. This positive 2 is going to get multiplied by the x plus 2 because the x minus 4's cancel out. So I'm going to recopy the sign of this. Remember, it's plus 2. And then we're going to go ahead and multiply it by x minus 2. All right, now we're ready to distribute, and then we're going to end up with a really basic level equation again. But don't forget, we're going to have to check for restrictions. All right, here we go. So 3x times x is 3x squared. I take that back. That's not a low level. This is going to be a quadratic of some sort. So 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times the negative 4 is a negative 12x. Now let's go over here. Positive 2 times x is plus 2x. And then a positive 2 times negative 2 is a negative 4. Okay, let's see what's going on here. I'm going to clean up these like terms real quick. So 4 is going to equal 3x squared minus 10x minus 4. Okay, please remember, anytime you have an x with an exponent, it has to be set equal to 0. So this 4 is moving. Here we go. 0 equals 3x squared minus 10x minus 8. All right, looks like we got some factoring to do. There's not a GCF or anything, so here we go, straight to slide and divide. 3 times negative 8. I need to add up to a negative 10. I'm just going to draw my little fraction bars here and write this so I don't forget to do that later. Okay, the good news is this is absolutely factorable. Numbers that multiply down to a negative 24 and add up to a negative 10 are going to be negative 12 and positive 2. We're almost done now. We're just going to clean up these fractions and then check our answers. So 0 is going to be, let's see, negative 12 divided by 3, that's a negative 4, so this is going to be x minus 4. Over here, this is already simplified. Just remember the bottom number goes in front of the x, so this is going to be 3x plus 2. And then, of course, guys, y'all notice that both of these equal to 0 and solve, and y'all are pretty advanced at this part, so you don't really have to show you setting it equal to 0. So you know this is a positive 4. And you know that if you solve for this, this 2 would move to the other side. It would be negative. Then you would divide by 3. So this is negative 2/3. And it's usually the opposite of what our little graphic is in our division. But hold on. Look. We have an extraneous. So that's okay. But on a test or a quiz, you have to show me what the extraneous are. And let me show you the symbols for this. We're going to be using parentheses. And then we're going to be using braces. Now you might be able to tell just by the pen I used. Anytime you have an extraneous answer, you just put that in parentheses and I will know that's an extraneous answer. Those symbols mean extraneous. That's a universal math symbol for extraneous answers. And then we're going to put our good answer, our answer that works, that will not make a 0 in the denominator in our braces. So these are the good answers. Make sure you remember those. I'm pretty sure y'all have seen these symbols before, but if you haven't, just make these notes so you will not forget. So here is our good and our bad answer for example number 2. We've got two more left, guys.